Andrew. I'm Rowan Hand. This is the morning programme. Good morning, Newry and more in the world. This is Paul McKeown of the Newry and Portadown branch of the Inland Waterways Association of Ireland. You're very, very welcome.
Morning, Rowan.
How are you?
It's not so bad.
Good on you. But I mean, is it any wonder you're associated with the Waterways Association, because your entire breed, seed and generation is seagoing?
That's right. Not only seagoing, but on my mother's side, they also worked on the barges.
That took the coal from Coal Island?
No, not that far back.
Not that far back.
But my grandfather did work on the barges. He worked on a barge called the Nora.
The Nora?
The Nora.
The Nora,
yes.
Yeah.
And it carried the coal from Fishers to Portadown.
From Fishers to Portadown?
Yes.
I hadn't realised that. When would that have been? What year?
Well, that would have been the turn of the century, into the 19th.
Into the 1900s.
Yes.
And Fisher was taking the coal from Garston in England over to Newry and then been shipped into Portadown. An exact reversal of the way it had been in 1742 when the canal opened, because the mines at Coal Island provided the coal to come to Newry for onward shipping to Dublin.
To Dublin, that's right.
How things changed.
And then the coal wasn't suitable, and then the thing turned, and then they had to take it, import it.
Yes, yes.
Instead of export.
So what, did you know, you wouldn't have known your grandfather?
No,
but you know of him.
My grandfather died, actually, my mother's about 79 now, and
79 he died, you would have known.
No, my mother's about 79. And he died when she was 10.
Yeah.
So he's dead a considerable, I think it's 1940, around 1945 he died.
Yeah. What sort of man was he, in family folklore?
Well, listening to my mother and my uncle, I still have one uncle alive that was on the barges along with my grandfather.
Yes.
And listening to them, like, he provided a fair bit. He must have provided transport back then, because he also supplied horse and carts to take the coal from the basin to the gasworks.
And they made the coke.
For the coke.
At the gaswork. God, tell them what coke is. And it's not what you think it is. That's funny stuff that you that some people in America sniff up their noses.
No, it's a different way of warming you up.
A different way of warming you up, this. Tell them about the coke.
Well, the coke would have been taken in, and it would have been the byproduct of whenever the gas was taken out of the coal.
Yeah, so the coal made the gas.
Coal made the gas, and then the coke could have been sold on and burned again.
But you see, I remember coke. I burnt coke.
Yes.
And it was like a silvery
cinder type of
cinder.
thing.
It's like a silver cinder.
Yes.
And it gave out the most glowing red, wonderful heat. There's no black or dirt with it at all.
No. Well, later on, then a lot of homes would have known to use it in their smokeless fires.
Yes.
Whenever Fadden Park and Luanda and
Peasant
them were all built, then they all started off with smokeless fires.
With coke. So he was a bit of an entrepreneurial fellow.
An entrepreneurial fellow,
because not only did he run the barge, was it his own barge?
No, the barge would have belonged to Fishers. But you would have had your own horses.
He would have had the horses. They would have drawn the barge all the way to Portadown. Did he take anything back from Portadown?
No, most of the time he would have come back empty.
Empty?
Yes, but I had another uncle then, and he worked for a company called McGurkins.
Yes, I heard that, McGurkins.
Yes, and he would have worked on their barge, and he would have sort of took stuff both ways. They wouldn't have dealt with coal. They would have more built materials and farm materials and things like that.
So there's plenty of travel in that.
Yes.
Now the canal, Portadown, the barges, the horses, all of that. It must have been very much in the mindset of your family over the years. You would have grown up with it.
Well, I grew up with it, yes. You would have heard my mother talking about the different things, about the barges not there. And then when Fishers did away with the barges, my uncle, George McCrum, lives in the meadow.
George?
George, yeah.
So George McCrum, Eamon, I grew up with Eamon McCrum.
Yeah.
I fell in love with Patsy McVeigh, who was a cousin of yours from America, she was from Great Georgia Street in Belfast and used to come to the meadow.
Yes.
You didn't know this?
No.
To the meadow, and she would have stayed in the meadow. But I was only a boy, I was only 12.
Yeah.
But my sights were set on beautiful women, and it was a very good thing. But she was lovely. I mean, she would come on holiday, and it was always great fun.
Yeah.
And Eamon, God rest him, he died far too soon.
Far too soon, yes.
Far too soon.
Yes.
Liam is okay. Where is Liam?
Liam's still about the town.
Liam McCrum.
Yes. I think he's retired now from the plumbing, or semi-retired.
And how is Geordie?
George, he had a wee a bit of a bad torn there for a while, but he was on the mend.
He's okay on
yes,
the mend.
It's a wee while now since I've seen him. Good enough.
Yeah.
I was over there, I suppose, about 6 weeks ago.
Yeah. So, George, what did George do? What's the connection there?
Well, George, it's his father. That's my grandfather.
His father was...
George and my mother, brother and sister.
My goodness.
And George would have been along with my grandfather on the barges during his school days and things. He got there,
Yeah.
right up in through. Well, he's born I think 1920s, so that would have took him up to into the 30s,
Yeah.
towards the 40s.
Then there was Terry McCrum. Was there a Terry?
There is, yes. He's in England.
He's in England.
Yes.
So it's all coming back to me. You had to think there.
I don't think
it came to me very quick because I grew up with these people.
Terry was home there for a while as well. So
and
was,
Pat
yes.
McElroy, he lived opposite the McCrums.
Yeah.
He was the manager of our football team, and our football team was St Jude's.
Right.
And Pat, he made us all good, and then it was all, goodness gracious, where does time go?
Yeah.
So when the Canal Society came along, and out of the Canal Society came the branch.
Yes.
That must have pleased you greatly, because up until then nothing was happening with it.
Yes. Well, if my memory serves me right, I think you were one of the founder members of our own branch.
I was. Well, I was a founder member of the Newry Canal Preservation Society,
Yes.
which was 10 years before the branch.
Before that, yeah.
So the council, that was necessitated by the council going to fill it in and turn it into industrial land.
Yeah.
So John Donnelly and I said, you will not do this.
Yes.
You shall not succeed. And we blocked them, we stopped them.
Well, funny, Rowan, when you and John did that there, I think I was about 10 or 11 years of age.
You would have been.
Yeah, and I can remember you doing. I remember the ducks going on the canal and things you had there.
And we got it all. For some reason, there wasn't a great duck population on the canal.
No.
We actually had to go and get eggs and hatch them out in my greenhouse in Daisy Hill Gardens, and then bring the ducks down from the greenhouse and release them onto the canal. And that's how the ducks
started.
That's how the and for the life of me, I don't understand that, because I do not know why the canal would not naturally have had ducks.
Have ducks, yes.
But it didn't.
No, probably because due to the shipping that was on it at the time, they probably just didn't go to it. But you'd
maybe
imagine whenever it stopped, they would have went
populated.
naturally. Yeah, but they didn't, no.
But we made a mistake with the ducks the first year. We got too many drakes and not enough ducks. Now, the consequence of that, dear people, and if you're of a tender disposition, don't listen now, but the drakes would copulate in the water with the ducks, and there would be non-stop copulation for the poor duck, and it meant that the duck died in the water through drowning. It was terrible.
No, yeah.
Terrible cruelty. And there was no pleasure in it at all for them, I tell you. It was no good. But then we would have the ducks would have laid eggs,
Yes.
and on a Saturday morning, I would be coming back from a week's work in the BBC in Belfast. John would come down, we'd be on the boat, and we'd look down through the clear water, and we'd see the duck eggs down in the mud. Did you hear this story before?
No.
No. 6 feet down, you could see through the clean crystal water of the canal, and we saw the duck eggs there. And we had a device which was a long pole with a bean tin on the end of it. We'd go down and we'd lift the eggs, take the egg up, look at the egg. If there was a mud mark on the egg,
Yes.
we'd know it had been there for too long, and we'd ditch it.
Yes.
But if it was clean, it meant it had just been recently laid, and we'd make our breakfast of it. And then we had canal tea. The canal tea, you know what that was?
Yes.
That was the black Demerara rum, made out of canal water, with sugar, with brown sugar and lemon, and that many's the winter day we were foundered there. But then you came along and you got involved in the
We got
branch.
involved, yes. Sean Patterson was a member at the time. It was before Sean became chairman of the branch. And it was Sean's a friend, and he encouraged me in, and that's where the C end of it came in, you see. Because Sean always, he never knew about my mother's side, but he always knew that my father and all but bar one of my father's brothers went to sea.
Yes.
Including, of course, I had 3 brothers myself went to sea.
Were you ever tempted yourself?
I was, but unfortunately, Rowan, the great lady, Mrs. Thatcher, halved the tonnage onto the Red Duster at the time.
Wow! So the Red Duster was no longer the king of the ocean.
No.
No.
And when I came along, I left school in 1981.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, jobs were very scarce then at sea. And even with a family background like I had, it still didn't matter. No.
Yeah. I went to sea in 60-ish, 1960. I was away for a couple of years. I went to Africa. I went to the Far East. I was a spark with Marconi.
Yes.
And I left it because I wanted to be with Marie, the woman I married. So I followed my heart back to the shore, and that's where it all started.
Yeah.
Now, you've been involved in the work on the canal over the time since the establishment, since joining.
Yes, I suppose maybe 5-6 years ago we started what we called work parties on a Saturday morning. And at that time, people that cycle the canal and walk along the canal would probably see the difference over the past few years.
Yes.
Where some of the lock chambers and even the water itself wasn't even visible. Where vegetation, and you had trees growing out of the stonework, which is fantastic that most of it's still in place.
Yeah.
And creating more and more damage naturally. And we took the programme of cutting all the trees out of the stonework and clearing the lock chambers and making the place visible and clean and tidy for people to see.
Yes.
And that's where it all started off, and then it progressed on. And just last week we had the Minister for Culture, Arts and Leisure.
Yes, I saw
with us.
that. She's the lady of the hair.
With the lady with the hair.
Yeah. I can't, what's her name?
Nick Cullihan, or
I can't pronounce it.
God
bless her. She's the lady with the hair. We know her. The Honourable Lady with the Hair.
And thanks to Dominic Bradley, he arranged that visit, so he did, and it was due to, in recognition for the voluntary work that the branch was doing.
Yeah.
And we had a boat travelled from Sands's Mill to lock number 3.
So lock number 3 is beyond
at the back of the college, that's right.
Back of the college,
yes.
Yeah. That's
so
a substantial enough.
With a 17-foot boat that made that journey.
What draft was she, the boat?
The boat would have threw about 2.5 foot of water.
So you had 3 feet of water.
You had 3 feet of water, yes, to be able to run it. That's right.
Do that.
So we made that journey. That was the first boat to travel that stretch of the canal in over 60 years, or thereabouts.
Fantastic.
And it also made a slight piece of history, because it's the first vessel to go past Sands's Mill on the par.
Wow. Because sail would have taken the boats to Sands's Mill.
Sail and the horses.
And the horses. And through the, past the opening bridges of Newry, the swing bridges.
Oh, but you had motorised vessels went up. You know, in the diesel days, you had motor vessels that would have made their way to as far as Sands's Mill.
Yeah.
You know, sure, in, I think it was 1954.
Yeah.
You had a vessel that Sands's were going to take the grain from Belfast instead of taking it by lorry, and they took a ship up in to see what it would do. And the only reason that they didn't continue on with it at the time, Rowan, was that the chute out of Sands's Mill couldn't reach across.
God, they weren't that enthusiastic, were they? They could have sorted that one out.
They could have sorted that one out today. Now I think it could be sorted out a lot easier
to get it sorted.
No.
Now the wildlife on the canal has just come on in droves. It's huge. Because I remember it was a red letter day if you were sitting there in a boat and you suddenly saw the shimmer, the flash of a kingfisher. Boom.
Yes.
And he was gone. He was from the branch into the water, back and away. With his catch. But the place is coming down with them almost now.
That's right. Well, it's good in the fact that you have them, and it also shows that there's healthy fish.
Yes.
In the canal, so there's a healthy fish population in the canal, and maybe a wee bit of a cleaning up and
made a difference.
Made a wee bit of a difference, you know. It's letting a bit more light into the water.
It's important because people used to say to us, "How do you drink that canal water?" And we'd. Donnelly and I had no problem doing it because it was clean.
Yes.
And you know, at the time, I know that the Keys did samples and all the rest of it at various times. It was clean.
It is clean,
you know,
yes.
But not suggesting people go and start using it, but I know places in Africa and India that'd be very glad to have it. They'd be living on it, I tell you.
Yeah. See, people don't stop to realise the canal at the moment is used as a drainage system.
Yeah.
And a canal at its highest point always has the fresh water draining down into it and at different points to keep it filled. So the water has to be clean in the canal.
Absolutely.
And a few years ago somebody had said to me about the water laying dormant in the canal.
No,
the water doesn't lay dormant in the canal. There's thousands upon thousands of gallons of water coming through that canal every day.
Yeah. I remember we had two things of my memory on the ship canal. a seal managed to get in through the lock gates and into the ship canal.
Yes.
It took us the mother and father of a job getting it out. I'm not sure to this day whether we did get it out, but we had the annual St. Patrick's Day flotilla of boats coming in from Carlingford and from Carlingford Lock generally.
That's right, yeah.
And we just thought maybe by the opening of blah blah blah, but we didn't see it after that, and that was a good thing.
Yeah.
And then there was a thing Donnelly and I did once. We used to do a number of things. We used to wreck the hides of the hunters. They would put their hides up on the middle bank, and they would hide in there, and they'd wait for the ducks coming in, and they'd shoot them dead. Well, Donnelly and I made sure they'd no hide, and we dealt with that.
Yes.
And then on another occasion, up at the Wynn Business Park, this is a long time ago now, there was a garage in there.
Yeah.
And from that garage, through a pipe, was coming oil into the canal.
Oh.
And we were getting the swans on an ongoing basis, heavily oiled, and we had to clean them. And we're doing that constantly. So Donnelly and I, like cockleshell heroes in our canoe, went up, and we stuffed that pipe with cloths all the way through to the heart of the Wynn Business Park, and no more oil came into the canal.
Yeah.
So we kept on top of it. So what else did we do that was interesting? There was somebody, we hooked into one day a huge net, like a huge tunnel net. I don't know what they're properly called, but it was about 10 feet long and a diameter of about about a meter.
Yeah.
And it was full of eels. Someone was secretly fishing the eels. So what did Donnelly and I do? The net was opened, the eels were released, and the net was destroyed. Now, I'm very glad to be able to say all of that. And then there was another day, at Christmas time, when we discovered this butcher is no longer in existence.
Yes.
We discovered all the offal and all the bits and pieces of stuff from a butcher's shop at Christmas. He was closing down for Christmas. He didn't know where he was going to dump the stuff. It was brought to the canal. So we did a forensic job on it. We found his delivery dockets. We found his invoices. We found bits and pieces of paper that give the game away. And we went to the solicitor. We got rid of the stuff, of course. And we went to Rory McKeown, who was the council solicitor. And there was just then new legislation in that made that totally illegal to do that. The council then had permission to take action. Well, sure, didn't we prosecute and try to prosecute, but the council then eventually backed off and nothing happened. So that was adventure. You didn't know all that. Was
no, I didn't know that there.
Are you proud of us?
Yes. That's the kind of things that keeps the canal clean and free of
Absolutely.
rubbish not there today. It was funny, we do question some of the pipes that's gone into the canal at different stages along the way ourselves. So we are,
you see them? Do you see any outflow from them?
Not all the time, but from time to time there'd be things.
See something.
Yes, and of course we're dealing with the 4 councils along the canal, so we would alert whatever council it relates to.
And is there a council area worse than another council area?
No, I have to say, Ron, the 4 councils work very well with us.
And they take it seriously.
And they do take it seriously, and we're well respected as a branch within them.
You are. You are. And what I like, and I have to say this, the other organisation in Newry, the maritime people, they're looking to the ocean. Yes. They're moving in that direction, and they're putting memorabilia up. They're doing their thing, and you're doing your thing. And ne'er the two shall meet. But you're each doing an important job, and it's good to see it happening, I'm glad to see that that's ongoingly the case. Now, you have a safari there every Saturday on bikes.
Yes.
What do people see on that?
Well, some of our members get trained. There's bikes in Portadown, Scarva, and Wynn Industrial Estate there.
Yeah.
And we have like 4 or 5 members trained to take the bikes out with groups of people. And the first Tuesday of each month, we have it that you can phone the phone number. There's a phone number available on our website, and you give it a ring, and you can book a place on it, and you go for a cycle. There's one on the 1st of July, and it lasts for about 3 hours.
Yes.
And on the 1st of July, it leaves Scarva.
Yes.
and comes down as far as Jarrett's Pass and back up again. It'll last for about 3 hours, and the group will talk about different things
And
about the
that's
canal
it's a
along
Saturday,
the way.
is it? The first of
Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday.
I think it is, yes. It should be, yeah.
Yeah. And that's the 1st of July.
Yeah.
So what will they be hearing? What sort of stuff will they be hearing? I'm looking up something here that's of interest to you, but don't worry. It'll all take its time and it'll all come good.
Along the way, you know, the group, the cycle leaders, they'll explain the different things about the canals, about the locks and who was at them and what was transported, and just a general sort of bit of a history on the canal and what our vision for the future of it is.
Yes.
You know, so
you see what we've got now.
It's not overly formal, Rowan. It's just for a bit of crack and something for people to enjoy.
What you've got now, and this pleases me greatly in the canal. I once upon a time dreamed that we would have the same pride in the waterway as folk on the Manchester Ship Canal in the Midlands of England had. Now, we didn't have it in the past.
No.
But we now have it.
We have it.
Thanks to your branch.
Yes. Well, another thing we have going on at the minute too is on the last week of July, with 2 of our branch members are heading off to the Lancaster Canal to do work. It's like a volunteer thing.
To do work.
It costs each person £56 for their bit of grub and that there and their keep.
And how long will they be there?
They'll be there for 7 days for the week.
7 days.
And they'll be walking there and see what's going on. And it'll be something that they can relate to and bring back to ourselves.
That's what I was going to say. You know, when you guys aren't fishing, you're mending your nets. You're sending out espionage battalions to find out how it's done, what's been done, and all of that.
Yes,
which is great. That's a huge thing to be at. Well, the future seems bright.
Yes.
And what's your relationship with the people in Dublin, the headquarters of the Inland Waterways Association of Ireland?
Well, we have a good relationship there as well. You know, our association in general has 22 branches throughout Ireland, north and south.
Are they any good to you?
They are good to us. Well, 2 years ago, they bought us a pump at £5,500.
Wow!
Now,
that's pretty all right.
The pump was necessary to take the silt and that out of the lock chambers at blocks 2 and 3 to get them operational for the thing that we did last Wednesday.
Yeah.
Now, as you know, with the ancient monuments scheme and that there, you're not allowed to put diggers or shovels or any heavy equipment down.
It took us a long time even to get the lock chamber down at Fathom, down the Victoria Locks, to get that sort of
mechanized. We devised the idea that if we had this pump, then we're not disturbing anything.
No, you're not.
So they agreed to that. So we've got the pump, as I say, and it was our head branch, our head office of the association, the IWAI, that purchased the pump for us. £5,500, bought it in England.
But Paul, it's a great vote of confidence in what you're doing.
Oh, it is, surely.
For them to give you £5,500,
pounds to go and purchase it in the first place.
That's huge.
Yes.
You're doing something right, big time.
Well, we have a lot of support, you know, and as you say, things probably didn't go well with all the councils and that at the start.
No, not at the start.
But once the bit of trust was built up and things could go on, you know, we have that there now, and people respect what we're doing.
You see, Donnelly and I had to tilt at the windmills. We had to, I use the word poetically, blow up the pipes.
Yes.
Poetically, we'd never touched explosives in our lives, but we had to be on sabotage expeditions to put manners into people.
Yeah.
We did that.
Yeah.
I remember coming around the corner at Jack Daly's in Mary Street. You wouldn't remember Jack Daly. He was a chemist up above Riley's furniture shop. It's not there. You wouldn't remember that either. Jack Daly was where the Mall View restaurant is now. Okay. Just looking down Milk Street, looking down the Mall. And time out of number, we would have got swans in the canal, rescued the swans, and took them down to Minnie and Annie's house in Mary Street and washed them. Here I was coming around the corner with a swan with his wings closed under my arm and my right hand holding the swan's neck just behind the head. And I come round the corner and I meet another fellow with something in his hand that's not a swan, but it's an SLR rifle owned by the Parachute Regiment. And I'm coming around, he's pointing, and I'm pointing the swan's head at him. And we're looking at each other. I said, don't worry, this is what we're doing. Oh, he says, well done, mate, well done, mate. And we got in. So that was the case then, that we got that sorted, and we were constantly doing that, and I devised the means of capturing your swan.
Yes.
Same way as if you thank God there are no crocodiles in the canal or whatever. But say you were wanting to get your crocodile, and you had to.
Yeah.
You had to take the crocodile on. Never do it after the sun has climbed more than 3 fingers above the horizon. If you look and the sun's coming up and you see 3, if it's under the 3 fingers, the day is still cold and the blood of the reptilian is still cold and thick and viscose, and he moves very slowly. But so you can come to him, you can get on his back, dive on his back, and he'll try to turn. He'll not do it that quickly.
No.
But what you do then is, when you're on his back, you have your hand with the mouth closed, the jaws closed, and he can't open because the musculature is for closing, not for opening. So once you get a wrap on them, you're safe enough and you can get escape. But that's that. But for your swan, I saw him one day and he got the queer shock. He was up against the wall of the courthouse in Newry, and he was cowering there on the bend around the courthouse. And we'll get this fella and sort him out. Walked along, Kemfernensed him right up, didn't look at him, knew where he was, and immediately dropped down onto one knee. Just bump like that, quick. But I was dropping him with my arm out.
Yes.
And before he could move, I had him, and I had the head, and we were as right as rain. I'm going to read you a poem.
Okay.
This is a poem. Last night I had a funny dream. I had this dream I was back sailing again. And I was back, and the boat ran aground. And I was then in the water trying to resolve the whole issue of the grounding, things we do all the time. So I thought to myself, you were coming in, and this is in honour of all of your family who have gone to sea. And it's John Macefield's Sea Fever. Are you ready for this?
Go ahead, Rowan.
I must go down to the seas again, to the lonely sea and the sky, and all I ask is a tall ship and a star to steer her by. And the wheels kick and the wind song and the white sails shaking, and a grey mist on the sea's face and a grey dawn breaking. I must go down to the seas again, for the call of the running tide is a wild call and a clear call that may not be denied. And all I ask is a windy day with the white clouds flying, and the flung spray and the blowing spume and the seagulls crying. I must go down to the seas again, to the vagrant gypsy life, to the gull's way and the whale's way, where the wind's like a whetted knife. We've known days like that. And all I ask is a merry yarn from a laughing fellow rover, and quiet sleep and a sweet dream when the long trick is over. Not nice.
Very nice.
That's Macefield's Sea Fever. We're going to wind up now and wish people farewell. So it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for coming in, and good luck with what you're doing.
Okay.
This studio is always your studio. And when I say your studio, I mean the branch. And you're welcome here anytime.
Thanks
Now,
very much.
we're going to say farewell. Thank you for being with me today. I'm back